What's up, jerks?
Manning retired. Sean. Both.
I like kickers.
Put him on the board. Howshi Mazzoli. Got it. Championship.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Fantasy Nerds. We have a full house today. Everybody's here. We're back together since, the first episode. I'm Jason Jarvie. With me, my brother, Joel.
Hello, Jason.
And Chris Hanks, he's back.
I'm back.
He decided to finally grace us with his presence again.
Did you guys miss me?
Of course, every single week that went
Never
by.
the same.
With every shot so far?
It's never the same.
So we're so close to real football. We're a week away from this recording. We're recording Thursday night. We're exactly a week away from real football being played.
I'm so excited. Next week, we're going to be talking about real life lineup stuff. That's going to be great.
Right.
It's not just going to be all projections. I mean, it is going to be all projections, but we're actually going to be projecting on games. We're not going to be able to sit here and tell you that Zach Zenner is going to be a starting running back. No, we're going to give you some real advice that you can take or leave because it's really your decision.
Well, you never know with Zach Zenner. ZZ Top, is that what they're calling him now?
Leading the NFL
Zach
in
Attack.
rushing, right?
Oh, yeah, just like the Lions preseason championship a few years ago. Remember when we went to Atlanta?
I do. I have to say this about going to Atlanta. They were very friendly, a friendly bunch.
Yeah, they were great.
were.
They really thought the Ernie Sims jersey that I had, they thought he was such a good player.
Yeah, they were so polite on the train ride back to our car, and they were assuring us that how lucky they got with that rookie Matt Ryan and how we're going to be fine.
Yeah, you guys will be fine.
Oh yeah, you're going to be fine. John Kitna he's a solid guy. You guys will be good.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And we were all like, I don't know, that game felt so weird.
It did. We literally on the train ride, we were talking. I remember saying, Megatron, he's going to have 5 touchdowns. He's just going to score all over him.
Yes, we did. We drove all the way to Atlanta to watch the Lions just get their stuff handed to them.
We did. It was not fun. The trip was fun.
The trip was fun. Good group, good crew.
The game was not fun.
No, it was such a weird game too, because they really, I remember it really clearly. Like Atlanta jumped out so fast, and just the Lions just looked so. They usually look dumbfounded, but this was like a different level of dumbfounded. And I remember at that time, game 1, feeling like this is different. This felt weird. And then 0-16.
Matt Millen. That's all I got to say. My favorite part of that trip was it was World of Coke, obviously.
Oh, World of Coke.
Yeah, it was solid.
That was delicious.
To sample all the pop from the worlds that you wanted.
I don't know if it was delicious. Some of it was. Some of that is
not
weird.
the Beverly.
The Beverly, that was it. Yeah. Stay away from Beverly. Ugh.
All right, let's stop talking about Coke and the horrible past of the Lions. Let's move on to our draft. We're 2 days away from our Christmas. It's Christmas Christmas Eve. Are you guys pumped for getting together? We're gonna go out to the lake house.
Absolutely. 24 or 48 hours from now. Well, 48 hours from now, we'll probably be out on the boat, but in the evening. But yeah, Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's always hard to sleep the night before. You're just anticipation, just pumping through your veins.
So give us a little rundown of what the day is going to look like for us. We're starting bright and early.
Yeah, I'll already be there. I always go the night before and stay there, so I'm up and ready with another guy from our league getting stuff ready for everybody. You guys, hopefully everybody there. What we say, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. So then everyone will be there about 10 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Who do you think the last person's going to be?
Are we saying names?
Oh yeah,
Danny.
I would normally say Joe, but it's his parents' house, so Joe will definitely be there.
I'm gonna go out. I'll say Danny. He's an easy person to say.
Yeah.
I'll go Tommy.
Okay.
Just to switch it up. I have a little faith in Danny.
I think Jay might be the last one to make it there.
Well,
he's not going to make it there because he's going to be in Italy. Traitor.
He's enjoying the delicious salami of Genoa.
That's right.
And the bologna of Bologna.
He's
whatever.
6 hours ahead or whatever behind. I don't
He could
know.
totally
Something
call
like
in for this draft.
So he's actually closer to draft day than we are.
He
right
is.
And he's still going to miss it. So a draft usually starts around 10, 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
We talk about any rule changes.
Which we have some things this year, but
What changes are we looking at? Let's talk to us, Commish.
well, we went from for the last I don't know how many years we've had at least 3 or 4. We've had IDPs for defensive players, and we've switched back to defense and special teams this year. So now we've kind of got to discuss how we're going to score that with everybody because it makes a difference.
Because
So
we do have the players. The players get their points if they, like, let's say you have a Benny Cunningham on the Rams. He hits a kick return touchdown. Do the Rams defense special teams, do they get the touchdown? I would say that they do, because when you have a quarterback who throws a touchdown to a receiver, both of them get the points. So I feel it's kind of like that.
yeah, I agree. I think that is the easy way to do it too.
Yeah, I think that's a slam dunk vote. You would think. You would think that's a slam dunk.
You would think
vote.
it doesn't really get. It isn't like that in the slack chat in the league.
No, there's no slam dunks.
Although that rule switched back pretty easily this year all of a sudden.
I think
Surprising.
it snuck through. I think people didn't really understand what they were doing.
People don't understand how to use their text, and they weren't quite sure who was texting them and what they were saying. And
That's true.
so might have some surprised guys that what?
Wait, what?
Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of IDPs. I'm glad it's gone. I think it throws a randomness into the league that it's very hard to scout and to, really know what you're getting with IDPs. And it's tough to work out a good scoring system too for them, because you hate losing to a defensive tackle that all of a sudden just blows up, and it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, and it was fun when we first did it, and we were trying to give a little diversity to our league, and it definitely added to the draft day experience, because you're looking for guys, obviously JJ Watt, I know Patrick Willis, London Fletcher, Baker Harris, your guy,
My guy.
every day, all the time.
Every year.
I know. Who was Greg? He drafted the guy who he was like, oh, Jovan Hay. That was a Jovan Hay. He called that one in.
Yeah, I've never seen a more confused look on everybody's face when the name Jovan Hay came up to draft. Literally everybody. There was no clue who that guy was at all.
I still don't even know.
So we usually go about 8 or 9 rounds, and then we give a break, because we're a social league. We like to talk. We like to chat throughout the entire thing. Some guys are completely focused on the draft. Other guys are a little bit more focused on having a few pops, maybe looking at what chips we have.
Right. I've had a few years like that where I was focused on the pops early.
Yeah.
Gets about the second half of the draft, and it's just like, this guy, throw the sticker up. You don't really pay much attention.
So you're saying that your blood alcohol level has a direct result with your quality of your draft?
But it
Yeah,
doesn't really
definitely.
matter for this guy. He's the trader.
Yes.
And we'll introduce a new segment coming up
I can't
later
wait. I can't
in this podcast. So we get pizza. We kind of break, finish the draft, and then usually it's a combination of Joel and myself, or maybe Danny, and we input everything in the league while everybody else goes out, play some can jam or some football.
Or fish.
Or fish. Every chance he gets.
Every chance you can get, you fish.
Yeah, totally. And then we just make the rest of the day of it. Recently we're on a lake, so we go on the boat, swim out in the lake, and I remember last year it was fun time riding around in the
Tube. Some tubing.
I still have the video. We could call it up and
if we could, I would like to post that to Twitter. That'd be kind of funny.
We'll post that. We can also post you eating the, what was it?
Oh,
what did you have to eat?
The habanero and a bet that you
I remember
lost.
that.
Jason lost.
I saw. I was looking at my time hop, and I was it said, "I'm looking to pay up on a bet." I'm like, I remember that. That was horrible.
You paid up. You came prepared though. You came with the bottle of milk. You were ready for it.
Yeah, it still sucked though.
Yeah, it seemed like it would suck.
I don't advise eating an entire habanero.
Oh.
Just for the record.
Yeah, make a different bet this year.
And then we finish it up. It's the first weekend of college football. So I remember the year that Michigan played Alabama. It was awesome. It was so good. They lost so hard, and it almost got to the point where it was kind of hard to watch for me as a Safe fan. I hate Michigan, but it was almost like, oh man, I kind of feel bad for you guys just a little bit.
And then he didn't.
Not really, but for a little bit.
That was a pound town.
Yeah.
So our draft, doesn't it? So you talk with other people. How long is a typical draft for most people, do you think?
I've talked with people where they're in and out within an hour to an hour and a half.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
And our draft, I mean, I think we've said our draft takes a long time. What do you think? Why do you think that is?
I think it's some people, though, it's just the way that it goes. The draft that I did for the doc in that league, they did a minute per pick. And it wasn't, I didn't think it was that bad because the first couple rounds, you know what you're going to take.
Yeah. I think that's why ours takes longer. What do we have, 2 minutes per pick?
I don't know. I don't ever pay attention to what.
I think it's 2 minutes, and it's probably too long because we probably, like you said, don't need it necessarily because you could do the same thing in a minute. I think a lot of us, especially after you get out of the first half or so, you start taking up all that time. I think
it depends where you draft. I think that makes it can make it go fast or slow. Like nothing drives me more crazy than when the 1st or 10th guy gets up there, makes their pick, and then knows that they have the next pick and have to go back to the magazine to look. Like, you got 2 picks in a row, buddy. Go up there with 2 picks, my man.
They don't like hearing that beep.
Yeah.
They hear the beep and they get scared.
That's the beep. That's a insert beep here.
Yeah. I'll put that in later. Maybe.
I think you get the beep as much as anybody.
Oh, I take
because
as much
you've got
time.
like all your sheets, your magazines. I mean, I've seen you go up there. Okay, you finally make your pick. You go up there and you stop, and then you turn back around, go back to your.
I'm completely guilty of that. When it gets in the later rounds, I have not won a damn championship. I'm gonna break this table.
See, to me though, like fantasy football is 2 parts. It's draft day and then it's trade season, right? I mean, so like I want to take as much time as possible. Like I love taking up 2 minutes and I love sitting and thinking about it and stuff like that. And I don't think everybody's built that way. They're not built to take a full 2 minutes. They're like, let's go. The fishing pole's calling. Let's,
I mean, there's a few guys that are literally like they're standing behind you to put their sticker up or hoping you don't take that sticker.
Yeah.
But
sometimes I'm doing that just to get in your head. I'm standing behind you because I want you to make your pick and I'm in your head.
Yeah.
There was an infamous tackle one year.
There was.
Did Corey recover from that?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Did he ever really recover though? I mean, inside.
It was a pretty big bear tackle by Joe.
Yeah.
There's a sizable weight difference there.
That definitely. I mean, I don't. That was strong. Sorry, Joe.
That's okay. He's not going to listen.
That's true.
Joe's not going to listen.
But so that's our draft. It's a little look into what we do. It's been going on for 16 years. We're the 3 original members, but we're a tight group, and we'll definitely update you guys throughout the season how it's going. I'm sure Chris will probably be in the running, and I'd like to say that I'm going to be there, but I don't know.
Well, if you're going your up-down theory, right? You should have a.
Oh no, probably not. My first round pick is going to get injured, and my season will be over.
Yeah, no, his first round pick is going to get injured.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's going to happen.
I will update you all next week of who I took to let you know if you guys are going to suck as well. But anyways, let's dive into some player news. Some big stuff happened this week, and just today, it'll be yesterday because it's coming out Friday. Tom Brady, he got let off. He's free. He's not suspended anymore. They overturned Goodell's ruling. Goodell has no more power. He has no legitimacy, but that's not what really matters. What really matters is fantasy football.
Yeah.
So how does this affect the Patriots as a whole?
It can only be good, right? They don't have to go with
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, right. And
Garoppolo
who looked pretty good in preseason, though. I mean, Garoppolo didn't look awful in preseason.
No,
but it's Tom Brady.
But he wasn't he still taking second team stuff because like Belichick didn't want to. He just said he wasn't going to do all that until he.
Yeah, I think so.
So Brady was still doing all the first teamers and stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
So week 1, they were going to go into that Thursday night game against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh had the upper hand because there's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. They weren't going to have LeGarrette Blount for week 1 either. Now you got Brady back. It's got to help. I mean, it obviously helps Rob Gronkowski.
Sure.
You got to think it also helps Julian Edelman because you're not sure what you're going to get with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing him the ball, but knowing that you got old Tom Brady back there slinging the ball like normal, I think he becomes a better wide receiver option in week 1 and the season going forward.
I think it definitely helps Edelman. Gronk's probably matchup proof in that sense that he could almost be a safety for Garoppolo. more than anything.
Sure.
I mean, Edelman's got those short, quick, timing routes that he and Brady are used to. Maybe Garoppolo's not. So, and I like Tom Brady, Michigan fan, so I like watching him play anyway. So
I mean, you put Michigan aside, Tom Brady he's obviously one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. He just is. I mean,
yeah,
you can't debate his numbers, you can't debate his rings. And, it's just really good to see a guy that's, really been beat down so much finally get the upper hand finally, with, have something go his way.
Right, yeah.
Geez, Brady. It's just been such
he
a
is
tough...
living in the shadow of Giselle.
That's right. Yeah. Tough place to be.
It's horrible.
Now, do you think this hurts the fantasy value of a guy like Jonas Gray, who maybe week one and that first 4 weeks when Garoppolo was going to be the starting quarterback, would Jonas Gray have had a better opportunity to show what he had to try and win the job over a more touches from LeGarrette Blount, or is it not going to change anything? Are the running backs basically just another thing that isn't affected by who's quarterback?
I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know what to think of Jonas Gray. I mean, after last year, that amazing game he had, the one game he played, he overslept, never saw him again.
Yeah.
And they signed LeGarrette Blount. So, I mean, I don't know what to think about him this year, really.
New England at running back is never going to be something I want to touch, really. I mean, it's a crapshoot, right? You're looking at, so Blunt's out, but do you like Jonas Gray more than you like James White? I don't know. Do you like Jonas Gray more than you like Brandon Bolden?
Right.
I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know if I like Jonas Gray more than I like Travaris Cadet.
Right.
I mean, really, what do you? It's a bad situation.
Answer just stay away, probably.
Yeah, running back
till
at
late
England.
if you can get somebody that you might try.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, I would still say to consider Jonas Gray as like you said, in a late round. Look at his ADP, see where he's going in drafts, and look to draft him around there. If you're hurting for running back, maybe kind of jump up to take a look at him. But let's move on. Fred Jackson, Fragile Fred from the Buffalo Bills. He was cut this week. I mean, that's all of Buffalo. Their hearts are broken.
Did you see the story where they said it was the GM going rogue? That's crazy to me. That is such a Lions thing to happen to another team. That's crazy.
Yeah, didn't the owners love him? And
sure.
And I mean,
Fred said that he'd do anything to be to retire a Bill.
Yeah,
that's painful.
But I think it definitely has impacts for fantasy going forward. Not just for Fred Jackson. He tried out for the Seahawks. No signings, but what could possibly come if he were signed by the Seahawks? How does it affect Marshawn Lynch? They have Christian Michael and Robert Turbin behind him, but obviously Fred Jackson would be the de facto number 2 if he was signed there.
So one of the reasons I like Lynch, obviously, and I've said before on the podcast, is he's a guy you plug in and you don't think about.
Right.
He plays third downs. He's their short yardage guy. He's always on the field. So to hear that Fred Jackson is coming to the team, to me, it takes a little shine off Marshawn. Fred Jackson's better than Michael or Turbin. He is. And he's also a closer style of running back. If Marshawn Lynch has a style, he's a closer fit to Marshawn than either of those two guys. So that to me scares me. That to me is like, and you already know Pete Carroll, like even if it's rumors and stuff like that, Carroll has just a little something against Marshawn, and I could see him pulling some junk with him this year.
Yeah, I mean, and Fred Jackson catches the ball more than Lynch does. Did they play together in Buffalo?
They did, and that's what I was going to say, is that they're actually pretty close friends.
Yeah.
Jackson and Lynch. So I wouldn't really see, if he were to sign in Seattle, I don't think it would really mess up what Lynch has got going for him, because they're still going to give the ball to Marshawn Lynch. He's beast mode. He's going to get you touchdowns. And I think they may actually even go away from running the ball a little bit, because with Jimmy Graham there, you got to throw the ball to that guy.
Yeah, your running backs on Seattle are Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson, really.
Right.
I mean, those are your running backs. And then you take into account, too, Fred Jackson, it's his 9th year in the league.
Yeah, he's the oldest running back in the league.
Yeah, it's not fake. Like, running backs fall off after a certain point. I don't think you're not talking about Fred Jackson from 3 years ago. You're talking about 9 years on his tread. So,
but he doesn't have a lot of wear. He's always been with somebody else.
Very true.
And he's always that guy that kind of slips by everybody. Sometimes gets on waivers.
Come on.
I know, but and somebody picks him up or drafts him really late. I think Joe did that a couple years ago.
He's a good trade bait too.
Yeah, he's a good trade bait.
Yeah, and he's definitely still worth a look later in the drafts, even if he doesn't get picked up. But to move on to the team that cut Fred Jackson, the Bills, they acquired LaShawn McCoy in the offseason to be their bell cow running back. And it might be a little bit of karma. They cut Fred Jackson, and now there's talks of LaShawn McCoy might not be ready for week 1 of the season, and this hamstring injury may be lingering. How does this affect you drafting him? I think McCoy is going towards the end of the first round and into the top of the second round. Does it give you a little bit of a pause that maybe he isn't going to give that? He's not going to have a really good year because he's going to have this hamstring injury.
I mean, I don't know. He kind of stays somewhere in the same vicinity for me, because before he had Fred Jackson there, now Fred Jackson's gone. So I mean, when McCoy plays, there's nobody there. There's nobody else. What, Booby? What's the guy?
Yeah, if your name's
Booby Dixon,
I don't really
Carlos
like
Williams, Anthony Dixon.
Yeah,
I'm not interested in a guy named Booby.
I don't know.
But other guys around his ADP, Jeremy Hill, Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson, AJ Green, are those all guys that are any of those guys that you'd want to take before LaShawn McCoy, or are you rolling the dice on McCoy and going in all in on Shady?
I'd take all them before him, but I would have before.
Yeah, I'm probably staying away from him too.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it 2 years ago when he had the huge year with Chip Kelly, and then last year where he had a little bit of a down year? I don't know. I'm not sold on McCoy. I don't know about him yet. And he's been around for a long time. He should be a back that we should all be like, he's been in the league long enough to be established. And I mean, I don't feel like that about him.
I'll never say never. I guess that I'll stay away from for sure, because the draft's going to come to you. The draft comes to you how it comes to you. You can't. Sometimes, what if I'm sitting there looking at, need a running back, in the second round or whatever, and I'm staring at LaShawn McCoy and Mark Ingram. Like, who do I want there?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm probably going to take McCoy.
Absolutely.
There.
And I think he's not going to drop so far. I don't see him dropping out of the second round. Top of the second round, it'd be a little weary.
Yeah.
But if if you have the first or second pick in the draft and LaShawn McCoy comes back to you, you're not passing up on that guy.
Yeah, that might be a situation you're in, Jason.
Yes. Yeah, shut up.
Okay, all right.
Harsh.
Let's move on to another subject. Guys on new teams. I'm talking about players that have moved on from, maybe they established themselves in one place and now they're on another team. Just like LaShawn McCoy recently, we just talked about going to the Buffalo Bills from Philadelphia Eagles. What guys out there that made moves this year are you looking at in the draft?
Well, I mean, if you had told me that Golden Tate last year was going to have the year he was going to have under the Lions, man, I'd love to have him as a number 2, even a number 1 wide receiver, the way he played last season. I mean, I'm kind of I'm one of those guys that tight ends kind of, I don't know how I feel about him. Like, I love Gronkowski. I have big love for Gronk. But I feel like he's not really a tight end. So that's separate. If you're looking at a tight end that's on a new team this year, I really like Jordan Cameron on Miami. I think he's got a good quarterback, good running back, decent wide receivers around him. I think Jordan Cameron was kind of brutally underused in Cleveland, and also a product of having really poor quarterback play. So Tannehill's going to be the best quarterback he's played with in the NFL, in his NFL career.
Yeah, and aren't they running the same offense, the Chip Kelly offense in Miami?
I'd love it.
So,
and, this is also an offense that had Charles Clay, who he was a top tight end when he was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that I saw last week in the preseason who I was definitely down on because of where he went is Jeremy Maclin. He had the huge season in Philadelphia last year, and I thought he just went. He was traded, or he went to KC to essentially die. And that last preseason game, they really involved him in the offense, and I think he might actually have a good year this year.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a big year. I mean, everybody says Alex Smith, but when he was with the Niners, I mean, he could get the ball out there, Crabtree and Vernon Davis. So, I mean, it's not just dink and dunk with him all the time. If they give him something.
It might be saying something about Dwayne Bowe, that Dwayne Bowe really was horrible, and they just didn't have any other receivers for him to throw to.
Yeah, Jeremy Maclin's the guy that I dread drafting, but it seems like he always comes around, and it's like, he's the best value around, so I grab him. And usually, I mean, I'm pretty happy I get him then, though. He's a solid player.
Of course, he doesn't like us fantasy players.
Oh, no.
No, he always has that lingering hamstring. 2 running backs that went to the same team. DeMarco Murray goes from the Cowboys to the Eagles. Ryan Matthews goes from the Chargers to the Eagles. What's the dynamic going to be like for both of those guys? Because there's also Darren Sproles. He's still there. What's the running back situation going to look like in Philadelphia in that Chip Kelly offense?
I mean, they're gonna Matthews is gonna get some carries just because of the sheer amount of plays that Philadelphia runs more than anybody else.
Yeah, at least 80 plays a game.
They'll kill DeMarco Murray. I mean, he luckily stayed healthy last year for the first time, but I mean, he's gonna. So I mean, it's probably gonna be a similar workload, or maybe even probably less carries than he got last year. But
which might be good for Matthews because he's a guy who always seems to not be able to make it through an entire season.
Sure.
Yeah. So 2 things about those running backs. One, Ryan Matthews. I don't even bother really doing any research about Ryan Matthews because Corey's going to draft him no matter what.
True.
And then 2, for some reason, Darren Sproles in our league is super valuable. You always have to bump him up in your charts every single time because Sproles, for some reason, however we have our league set up, and I don't know, maybe you guys could tell me something of why it happens, but he always just seems like a tipping point and is always a great player in the Slackjaw League.
I think he's a PPR monster.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to his big season on New Orleans, I think he caught like 80 balls, which, not number 2 wide receivers don't catch 80 balls sometimes. So I think that's where his value is, and it's in PPR leagues. If you're in a standard league, Darren Sproles is almost unusable.
Undraftable. I mean, I don't really. He wasn't much in our league last year. No. I guess I don't have the numbers right in front of me what he finished, but I don't think he did that well last year. Another player, though, in the same vein as him, who's on a new team also in this category, is Shane Vereen with the Giants. I think he's going to have a bounce back big year.
Yeah, I think if he can stay healthy, because I think that was what you hope to see in New England.
Yeah.
You hope to see him as that third down back, that pass catching back, but he always seemed to get hurt. And Belichick hates you, and he hates all of his running backs. So right. Yeah, now he's on the Giants. I think he might be that safety net for Eli Manning.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you're looking at the Philadelphia running backs, let's take a look at all of them. So DeMarco Murray, is he worthy of still being a running back number 1, or are you looking at running back 2 now? He's away from the Dallas Cowboy offensive line. I still like the Philadelphia offensive line. I think they're very underrated, and people don't give them enough credit. But is he still that bell cow running back that you can carry you to a playoff? I
think so. I think he's more what Chip Kelly wants, what he wanted McCoy to be, which he never was. McCoy's an outside the tackle more guy, avoids contact. I mean, DeMarco Murray's going to get in there and he can catch the ball. I mean, I think that's what Chip Kelly wanted.
Yeah, I think you're like you listen to people talk about how he's just a product of the Dallas offensive line. Well, the Eagles offensive line is nothing to sniff at. Like, that's a pretty good offensive line too. So I feel like DeMarco Murray can still be a real solid, and he has the potential and the tools to be the best running back in the league.
Sure.
So then Ryan Matthews, he's obviously not a running back 1. I don't think he's a running back 2. Is he worth a flex play, week in and week out, or is he just a handcuff for DeMarco Murray?
Probably just a handcuff, I think.
I think he could be a flex. Like I said, I don't do a ton of research on Ryan Matthews because he always goes to the same guy in our league. So what's the point, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think it all depends on where he falls in the draft. If you're staring at him and he's right around where his average draft position is, which I know he's a couple sheets down on my ADP list.
I think I saw him at like 93 or something.
So yeah, if you see him in the 8th or 9th round, take a look at him. It's going to be a good offense.
If nothing else, I mean, I'm a big proponent of hoarding running backs. For never know when you're going to need them, or somebody else will need them from you later.
All right. Any other players you want to discuss that kind of switch teams?
Mike Wallace. I know you hate Mike Wallace.
I don't hate Mike Wallace. I hate AJ Green right now.
Okay.
I think my hatred has moved on to him.
It just shifted.
Mike Wallace is he's not as good enough for me to hate.
Yeah. So I'll confess something to you guys, and don't tell anybody. I really feel good about Minnesota's offense this year. I don't know why. I feel like Bridgewater is going to make a step. I feel like AP coming back just makes them, they scare me for the Lions' chances. I could easily see our schedules, our records flip-flopping with Minnesota this year. I would hate that. But, and I think Mike Wallace is a big part of that. And so is Charles Johnson.
And Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
I like him too.
I see Charles Johnson as a bigger piece in that offense. Mike Wallace, I think he'll be a deep threat. I think it's going to take him a little bit of time to adjust to this new team. I think that's what we saw when he went to Miami from Pittsburgh. He was in Pittsburgh. He was finally, starting to shine. He goes to Miami and he sucks for a couple of years, but he slowly got better. Now he's on another new team. Is he now a veteran enough where he can make that transition, or is he gonna need that little bit of time? I think it'll probably be somewhere in between, but.
Typically, I would also say, oh, well, you go from a team that's playing outdoors to a team that's playing indoors, and you got the turf and you got the speed, and that's perfect for Mike Wallace. But they're playing outdoors this year, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be outdoors all year, too. So it's going to be pretty nasty up there in Minnesota.
Yeah, and, they're playing outdoors in Minnesota. They're playing outdoors in Chicago. They're playing outdoors in Green Bay. So that's 6 games where it's probably going to be close to cold weather unless it's in the September-October month.
What a bunch of wusses we are here in Detroit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The only one?
Well, the only quarterback I want that's playing in that cold weather, though, is going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's the only one that can make... Because every year, I think there's no way that a quarterback is going to have a quality fantasy day in this type of crap weather. Mm-hmm. And he goes out and he does it every damn time, and it drives me insane.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We're going to, with drafts, if you haven't already had your draft, you're probably having your drafts like us this upcoming weekend. So we're going to take a look at the top 12 players in the draft, kind of go through some pros and cons to try and help you out, regardless of where you're drafted in your league. If you have some questions on those back end players, we got your answers. If you're trying to decide between AP and Jamal Charles, we're going to help you out here. So let's run down from 12 to 1. So first guy on the list, we got number 12, Rob Gronkowski. What does this guy give you?
What doesn't he give you? He's by far and away the best at his position, which is obviously tight end. He really doesn't play like a tight end.
He gives you a matchup win every week.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't even know if there are any cons to Gronk other than that he is a tight end. Like, how high can you take him?
Sure. I think when you're looking at building your team for matchups and things like that, Gronk is. I loved having him on my team last year, and I know for a fact that he's one of the reasons I won a championship. Gronk allows you to build your team in a different way when he's on your team. So if he's the 12th best player off the board, I think that's a great time to get him, and he just makes so much sense. He's not only giving you points that you need every week to win, but like I said, he allows you to take your team and build it a different way and have that stud that you don't normally have at a tight end. You look at the rest of the league, no one else will have a tight end like that.
And I think that is part of the con, though, is that you do have to build your team a different way. If you're taking Rob Gronkowski at the end of that first round, then you have to make sure that you're picking up, running backs in the 2nd through 5th round, that you're getting enough guys, because you're not getting one of those top guys. You're not going to get one of those back end, Matt Forte or DeMarco Murray. You're going to have to build your team a different way. I think also with Gronkowski, you kind of almost got to count that he's going to miss some time. I think you can almost count that he's going to miss at least 2 games. And so can you make it through those 2 games that he's going to miss?
I feel like, I don't know, I'll look it up. I feel like he was pretty healthy last year.
I was going to say, did he miss early in the season last year maybe?
I know he's always hurt. He's always hurt, but he always plays. So it's one of those things where, like, it's frustrating, like they did that with Calvin last year. They're like, oh, he's going to play, because Gronk, like Calvin, is one of those players that even if he's on the field, you have to account for him.
Oh, yeah.
And the Patriots are good enough to have Gronk out there and not get any production from him and still win a game, whereas the Lions try to play that game, and they're not good enough to have Calvin out there and still win a game. They need someone producing.
Right.
All right, so let's move on. Number 11. Demaryius Thomas, Denver Broncos wide receiver. Peyton Manning, another year older. How's this going to affect him? Is he, what are the pros and cons of this guy? He's obviously a good wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about Peyton Manning, as I am maybe possibly Gary Kubiak, he wants to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's what Clinton Portis, Reuben Jones. Any of those guys you can go back and for Denver all those years.
Right.
Or Gary Kubiak.
He was also there though when John Elway was tossing the ball around.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Was it how much offensive numbers was Elway putting up? They won then. That's when they won their Super Bowls. But you
also had
Terrell
Davis. Yeah. Manning's still going to have the freedom to make those calls at the line. I think it's just going to help everybody. Demaryius Thomas another year. I don't think he really has I think he's a player who doesn't have a whole lot of cons. But I do think it relies on how far is Peyton Manning going to get him. Is he going to get 3/4 of the way through the season and then have a noodle arm again, which could hurt you in fantasy championship time?
He destroyed your playoffs.
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely. Peyton Manning was the reason. Your team was probably built better than mine, and Peyton Manning just completely took the legs out from underneath your team.
Well, I lost you in the semis.
Yeah,
last year,
and it was because Manning is like, what was the week? There was like a week where like all of a sudden he just dropped off, and he dropped off so hard. I'm a little bit leery on all Broncos right now, like just because of that. I'm staying away from C.J. Anderson. I'm probably going to stay away from Demaryius Thomas unless, he kind of falls to me. But I'm not reaching for any Broncos this year.
You can let C.J. Anderson fall all the way to me, and I'll take him.
Okay, that's fine. No Julius Thomas anymore.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, what is the...
Owen Daniels.
Daniels.
I'm not that concerned. I think it's all going to hinge on Peyton Manning.
Well, and even if he has the noodle arm, most of where Demaryius Thomas makes his hay is the bubble screen. It's
That's
not
true.
a hard throw. Give him the ball and let him go. Let him run.
All right, number 10, our first quarterback, or one of two quarterbacks in this top 12, Aaron Rodgers. So much has happened from the beginning of the training camp to now. I think I would have looked at him as, a top 5 pick in a standard league for this guy. Now, no Jordy Nelson for the season. Randall Cobb, he's going to have some sort of shoulder injury. I think he's probably going to be back for week 1, but could he possibly re-aggravate that? How's that going to affect Aaron Rodgers? So what are you guys looking at for A-Rod? A-Raj?
So fantasy wise, I love Aaron Rodgers, and he's the kind of quarterback that, regardless of who he's throwing to, is going to put up just monster numbers constantly. Like I said, I keep waiting for the year that he can't keep doing that. He can't keep doing that in horrible weather, in the division that he plays in. He just can't, and he just does every year. Now, fan-wise, I hate Aaron Rodgers so much. He hates us all in this room for being from Detroit.
Sure.
He I think should be the most hated when you talk about like rivals and who Detroit sports fans should be railing against. It's Aaron Rodgers. He despises the Lions, and all he does is beat us.
Would you say he's almost at the level of Michael Jordan when he was hating on the Pistons?
Yes. I agree. I think so. Because, you look at stuff like, now that Sue's gone and things like that, but that last stomp that supposedly he did when Sue kind of took a step back, the whole reason that was even an issue is because it was Aaron Rodgers and the bitch way he reacted to it.
I don't know. I like Aaron Rodgers, and I liked Michael Jordan, and I was in that. I'm older than you guys, much older than you.
Old man.
But I was, that was like my formative years of sports, watching those. I loved those Pistons, and I loved Michael Jordan.
You wanted to be like Mike.
So no, I have no problem.
It's okay. You've won your championships. It's okay.
I have no problem saying that Jordan was the best. He's the best player I've ever seen play, and probably will be the best player I'll ever see in my time. I think he's better than LeBron. All that. At the same time, though, I hate what he did, and I hate the way he conducted himself when he was on the Bulls and playing the Pistons with those bad boys. I feel the same way about A-Rod right now. He had a quote a little while back. I forget what it was about, but he made a reference. It was about some game, and he said it like, "Oh yeah, we went in there like it was Thanksgiving in Detroit."
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
And I was like, "You bastard!
I know
that's such a arrogant thing to say."
I know, but way off topic. But that's why you State fans. That's why D'Antonio does that with Michigan, and it bugs me. The same reason.
Whatever. It's a completely different thing. Shut up.
D'Antonio can do whatever he wants, so you shut your mouth.
We're completely off topic. We're talking about his fantasy value. I think he's still going to be probably the number 1 or 2 quarterback. For me, when you look at Andrew Luck, you look at Aaron Rodgers. I would have put Aaron Rodgers ahead all day long. And in our league, when we're drafting 2 quarterbacks now, or we're in a 2 quarterback league now, if Rodgers was already gone, I might have passed on Luck. But now with Rodgers, with all those injuries, I might be looking at Luck right now.
Is that who you take? Is that an exclusive?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
You heard it here.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I got the second pick. I never know. I don't know what Joe's gonna do. I think I'm a little convinced he might take Drew Brees.
You never know with Joe. I mean, if he took 5 quarterbacks last year and it was a 1 quarterback league, I mean, we could be looking at Joe taking 10 quarterbacks, right?
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
Here's an argument. It was on the Fantasy Sideline show last week.
What radio station's that?
I was on 105.1. I was on with Dennis Farrell. But it was some guy, he took Dez Bryant number 1 overall. And his reasoning is that he wanted to have Dez on his team. He enjoyed he liked the Cowboys. He wanted to watch them. And Dez wasn't going to be there in the second round. So if you really want to take Dez Bryant at that point, why not take Dez Bryant? And I think, if it's a little crazy, but if Joe really wants to watch Drew Brees, he's probably not going to be there when he gets there in the second round.
Well, for sure. And that's one way a lot of people draft. They won't, like you. I mean, would you not take Aaron Rodgers if you had that, if it was the perfect spot for you that you should be taking a quarterback?
Oh, no. I would take Rodgers in a heartbeat. I would be standing behind the guy that was drafting and with the sticker in my hand ready to go.
Right.
If it was Rodgers falling to me.
But yeah, I mean, there's guys, Joe does that in our league. There's certain guys he likes to root for. He will draft them.
Yeah.
No matter when.
I won't get cute like that with my team until later in the draft. Those first couple picks are too important to, you can't think about that first round wearing your Lions jersey. You can't do it. Or you can't have your team's hat on at that time. The team you need to be cheering for at that point is your fantasy team. And you need to get the best player for that. So no, I understand what you're saying and I get it. And I don't fault anybody to do that for playing that way. You love a player, you want him on your team, I draft him for sure. Right. It's a game. That's what you do. Me, I'll look later in the draft. And then at that point, if I'm looking and I'm trying to pick between, like, say, defenses. Oh, defenses are up. I know I want to cheer for the Lions. I really like the Lions. I'll take the Lions at that point for my defense.
Right.
As opposed to one of my stud major players.
All right, let's so Rodgers, not really a whole lot of cons other than you're not sure what you're going to see from his wide receivers.
Yes, and he's a bastard.
Yes. Number 9, Andrew Luck, the savior of the Colts. He was coached by one Jim Harbaugh in college. That obviously he's the second coming, right?
He is on par almost as weird as Jim Harbaugh.
With that beard? Yeah.
He's such a strange guy too. I love Andrew Luck too.
Yeah.
He was a stud last year. I have a hard time seeing cons for the guy. Really, he's got Frank Gore in the backfield now. Has he had a running back that good ever in Indy?
Right. I mean, didn't they have the most passing attempts last year? Indy, I think, did.
Yeah.
If they weren't the top, they were in the top couple.
Yeah.
The only thing I have a hard time really seeing T.Y. Hilton as a top wide receiver. I just don't get it. It's I don't know. It's kind of like Victor Cruz. I never really understood how he was like a top wide receiver. I mean,
I think of T.Y. Hilton like Torrey Smith.
Yeah, he's a boomer bust.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or I think he's almost like a Steve Smith, because I think Steve Smith is another guy. He's a small guy. He's fast, but he makes ridiculous catches.
Well, so let me ask you this: the Colts say they shake hands and they pat Reggie Wayne on the back and they say thank you for all the years, and he walks away and they bring in Andre Johnson. I mean, maybe I'm behind the times here, but I feel like Andre Johnson is a little younger Reggie Wayne here, and if Andrew Luck has never had a running back like Frank Gore behind him, Andre Johnson has never had a quarterback like Andrew Luck in his career. I'm excited. I think the Colts are going to be huge.
I think both those signings are sneaky good. Mm-hmm. They're not over the top huge names maybe, but I mean, like you said, they're going to help Andrew Luck a great deal, I think. Yeah, the Colts could be the team.
6 weeks in, we could all be like, what were they thinking signing Andre Johnson? He's so done. But right now, in the offseason, I'm excited.
9 and 10, you have Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers. They're both going to be solid picks, and there's really no downside to those guys. The only thing is if you want to draft them higher, then you're kind of missing out. It's not as good of a value, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So let's move into, we got number 8, Chicago Bears running back Matthew Forte, a guy who always just seems to produce.
Yeah, what do you have, over 100 catches last year?
Yeah, he's another guy. You're getting a guy he's not only your starting running back, but he's your starting wide receiver.
Yeah,
he allows you
especially is Jeffrey. Isn't he hurt right now too?
Alshon Jeffrey's hurt. Kevin White is hurt.
Yeah,
I think your starting wide receiver there is Eddie Royal.
Right.
Yeah. I like Matt Forte a lot. Again, though, I feel like Chicago is going to be a mess. Not long. I think John Fox is a good head coach. I think Gase is a good offensive coordinator. They'll figure it out. They're going to be a mess this year. I think the only fantasy player I would want to own on that team is Forte, though.
You don't want to have Jay Cutler on your team? I know he's the Jock's favorite player.
Yuck.
So Matt Forte, are there any cons to this guy?
Age, right? I mean, again, running backs fall off, and they fall off hard. I think if you get Forte, you need to draft a handcuff. You need
I like the handcuff. Who's the handcuff behind him? Jeremy Langford.
Ooh.
Go Sparty.
Insert Spartan fight song.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
Because I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna watch Michigan lose to Utah.
Oh boy.
Anyways, let's move this along. Number 7, Dez Bryant, Cowboys wide receiver, got his money. Is that going to affect him at all? What's the downsides to this guy? This guy doesn't he have like the most touchdowns in the past 3 seasons of all wide receivers?
Probably. I guess, yeah. This is a guy.
It's something I just pulled out of the air. I think I'm right, but
Dez is a guy that I kind of feel like how you with Aaron Rodgers. I can't stand him.
Okay.
I usually shy away from him.
Oh, when he ran out on the field in that playoff game.
That was a penalty. That was a penalty. How can you not throw the flag, NFL? Throw the flag. If you're not going to call pass interference, then call unsportsmanlike and give us 15 yards for Dez running onto the field.
Helmet off, right?
And if you're not going to call that, call the holding on the guy who held Brandon Pettigrew.
And if you're not going to call, never mind. We need to do that. We need to do that forever on that one awful, awful play.
I just can't stand Dez Bryant. I mean,
he's a great talent. He just catches touchdowns. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Did you have Dez?
I did have Dez this past championship winning year, and you know how I am, guys. I get a soft spot for guys when they perform for me. So I like Dez a lot. I can agree with you. He's not a person I would want to have over for dinner, but I would love to have him as my number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So feel free to take that guy. He's unless Tony Romo goes down, and I don't even know who's their backup. Is Brandon Whedon still their backup? I can actually probably take a look at that real quick.
Does Tony Romo doesn't ever not play? Like he plays with broken backs.
That's a guy I like Tony Romo.
Ooh,
I think he's a guy. He gets a lot of disrespect. People don't like him, but he's just he's a good fantasy quarterback.
Yes,
kind of like Stafford.
Yes,
he's a good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, Romo is the guy that I would love. Again, he's one of those guys I'd love to have on my fantasy team, and I would. He's hot garbage as NFL quarterback. I feel
right.
Like I would never. Do you ever trust him in the fourth quarter ever to not just do something completely wacky? I can't handle him as a real quarterback.
I do want to give a shout out to Dennis Farrell. He's watching us on Periscope.
Dennis Farrell.
Hi, Dennis.
You the man, Dennis.
You can catch us Sunday. We're going to be out at Arts Beats and Eats. 11 to 1. We're broadcasting live.
Nice.
We're by the Baskin Robbins, I believe.
Nice. Is Dennis going to have that shiny belt?
I would imagine he's going to bring that.
Nice. Does he just wear it all the time?
He does. He does. He also has this gigantic ring that he won in some experts league, which
nice.
I think he might have beat one of our favorite fantasy guys in that league.
Really?
Yeah. But
Much
anyways,
respect.
let's dive back in. Number 6, Antonio Brown. This guy, he was my only bright spot on my team last year. Is he going to be affected at all with Le'Veon Bell not being there for the first 2 games? Martavis Bryant, he's going to be out for the first 4 games. What are we going to see from Antonio Brown this year? Are we going to have a similar production, or are we going to see a little bit less?
I think a lot of the same over the last 2 years. I mean, the guy is just a model of consistency. I I mean, he returns punts, kicks. I can't remember which one he does with some returning.
I remember that one game where he kicked the punter.
That was awesome.
So, any downsides to this guy?
I mean, other than the fact that, again, Ben Roethlisberger is just one of those guys that, again, I watch and I'm just like, how does he keep performing at a high level? I don't get it.
Yeah.
He defies, convention with being able to, the way he extends plays and things like that. But that being said, he doesn't drop off. So I don't see, Antonio Brown should be your first wide receiver off your board.
Yeah. I mean, he just seems like the other teams know that he's going to get the ball. I mean, I couldn't believe last year, Martavis Bryant was young, Wheaton was young, it's like they just you knew he was going to get the ball and they couldn't cover him.
That's my only worry is that, and that's what I was thinking exactly. Last year, I would monitor the Steelers games. I'd see Martavis Bryant catch like 2 touchdowns. I'm like, oh God. But Antonio Brown would still end up with like a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Maybe Wheaton and Bryant, if they do, take a next step, they might take away a little bit from Antonio Brown, but it's not going to take away to the point where he's not going to have a good season. He might have a little bit less, but he's obviously outside of Le'Veon Bell. I think he's Big Ben's main option.
It might open up more space for him even too. Maybe up his yak.
Take that away from
if he doesn't have as many defenders double teaming him or everything.
Yeah, Golden Tate, the king of yak.
That's right.
So now we move into the top 5. We're in pure running back mode now. And talk about modes. We got beast mode at number 5. Marshawn Lynch going number 5. How do you feel about this? I think this guy. I don't think he's been this high really. I think he's almost in the second. He's in the lower half of drafts most of the time. Now he's being projected in the top 5.
I think it's usually because of PPR leagues. He was down a little bit in a standard scoring. He's right there with any of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, we talk about every episode so far. We've said, or I've said, that depth can be your worst enemy. And Lynch is one of those guys that you draft, you plug in every week, you don't think twice, and you take what he gets you. And you can sleep at night knowing that, how was I supposed to know to not start Marshawn Lynch? Like, how was I supposed to know that? Right. The guy's so good, you start him every week and you take what he gets.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would you say that the only con to this guy is his age and how he goes so hard every single play? I mean, is this the season when he starts to drop off? They obviously looked at Fred Jackson for a reason. He may not be there next year, regardless if Fred Jackson's there or not. Are they going to try and give some more touches to the Robert Turbin or Christian Michael? I mean, what do you think?
I could see that happening because, like you said, I don't know that Lynch will be there after this year. And he's 29, but he's had a lot of work. He might be a 30-year-old based on the sheer amount of carries he's had over the years. So, yeah, I think you might see some of the other guys get a look this year more.
Yeah, I think of these top 5 running backs, if you wanted to choose a running back that could fall off out of these top 5, it's probably Marshawn.
I'd have another opinion of that, but I'll get to that when we get to the guy. Moving on from Marshawn, number 4, Green Bay running back Eddie Lacy. I think he's out of these top 5 guys. I think he's actually the safest of all of them. I think what he's going to give you. I think his role in that offense it's solid. He's only got James Starks behind him.
See, I'm gonna disagree a little bit. This was the guy.
You're free to do that.
This was the guy that I'm kind of was like, I don't want to have to make that decision on him. I don't think he gets a ton of touches, to be honest. I mean, he made the second half of last year, yes, on the limited touches he had, because they do use. I had him at one point, and I'm watching it like, why is Starks in for like 3 series in a row? Where is Eddie Lacy? I'm like,
it's frustrating.
And it's they just don't. He just doesn't touch the ball as much as Lynch, as much as Charles, Bell, all these guys, I think. And, I get it with those receivers out this year. Maybe that's going to change that. But I don't know. I'm just not sold on Eddie Lacy fantasy-wise for me right now.
That's fair. I can understand not wanting to pull the trigger on that and not wanting to have to make that call that early. I like Lacy too. I think he's going to be good. I think he's solid. Again, my brain tells me that in poor weather, running backs should do better than quarterbacks. So clearly Eddie Lacy should be the the guy to own on Green Bay if it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers and his witchcraft.
So
Right.
number 3, Jamal Charles, Kansas City Chiefs. We're getting into the big boys here. He's their offense in KC right now. I mean, Jeremy Maclin, I think he looks good, but clearly, first, second, third down, they're gonna likely give the ball to Jamal Charles.
I love Jamal Charles, but I
I was
also
gonna say
think
he's your guy, isn't he?
I do. Yeah,
He's your guy.
I've had him. I think I had him last time I won a couple years ago, and then I also had him the year that against our Lions, Rory made him when he stepped out of bounds. He was avoiding Rory and stepped on the yard marker or whatever it
should
was
know to
and
just
tore his
plow right
ACL.
through.
Good job,
in like
Rory.
week 2.
Yeah.
Way to go.
I want.
You got to go low on Rory. You just gotta go for it.
But yeah, I do love Jamal Charles. I mean, I had him that playoff game for us that he went crazy. What, 6 touchdown catches or something?
Yeah.
In that.
I remember looking a couple years ago, and Charles was on, I think, every playoff team that I looked at. Charles was a part of. He's one of those guys, man. You just get him, and you then worry about the playoffs.
Yeah. But there's going to be, I think you're going to start seeing a whole lot more of Niall Davis, too. He's a good running back.
It's true.
With Charles, though, I think he's the guy out of these top 5 backs that I think could easily be number 1. I think he has the most potential to just score a ton of touchdowns because he's their goal line back, and he's also going to be Maclin might take away from the screen passes, but they may even utilize it more, do a double screen, fake it over to Maclin. You got Charles in the other flat.
Yeah.
Hard to go wrong.
So we're number 2, Le'Veon Bell. This guy he was huge last year, and he's a Sparty.